Welcome to the playoff edition of SSL Premier Season 2 After Hours with me, Valdes, and Wolf, of course. We are going to be discussing Deer versus Dark for the first best of 7 for playoff round number 1. Wolf, what are your initial thoughts about this series?
Honestly, I feel like going into the series, if Deer had won his matches today, I would definitely say this is Deer favored, this is his season, he could go all the way, he could make the run to the finals. But with his performance today, really struggling in the Protoss versus Protoss, looking really shaky and nervous, making some weird decisions in terms of micro and attacks. I don't know if he could actually take the series against Dark. I think I have to sort of lean towards the Dark side of things, no pun intended there, and say that I think Dark is going to be stronger. Yeah. Deer has consistently disappointed in these high-stakes matches since he won his first title back in 2013. So, I mean, what Deer we see that day on the first day of playoffs, I think, is really going to determine who advances.
I would have to agree. I think that the PvP versus Hero tells you a lot about Deer under pressure, right? It's not Deer versus Dark, where he's confident in PvZ, just the week before tonight, where he crushed him 2-0. If we just had that result and he defeated Hero tonight, as you were saying, this would be like, I could be sitting here saying 4-0 Deer even. Like, especially after looking at the series that Deer played versus Dark. It was a stomp, it was not close. Dark looked like he wasn't expecting the stuff that Deer was throwing at him. He was looking very confident in the matchup. I mean, just go back and watch it yourself. It's a pretty crazy one. But because the whole dynamic has changed because of that series, it really depends on, is Deer going to be in that form where he's, consistent and he's not nervous, or is Dark's, experience in very high pressure situations where he has proven that he can perform under that pressure? Yeah, is that going to be the winning
yeah, and I think we have to remember too, Dark had a rough series against Solar, did not look completely in form either tonight. So, taking that 1-2 loss at the end of the day, having that rough base trade scenario, failing against Solar, the defending finalist, of course, of SSL Premier, was a little bit of a tough one to take. And I think that this series could go either way. I think Deer needs to win game number 1. If you go back and watch his Protoss versus Protoss series against Hero, you can see after losing that first match, going into DTs, having that shaky defense there, the hyper-aggressive attack that he didn't necessarily need to take, the fight, especially when he did that counterattack where he was trying to attack up the ramp and Hero just had way more units than him and had the high ground advantage, it looked a little bit sloppy. I think Deer felt the nerves today, and going into an even more important match, an important best of 7 that he got there really not off of his own back, actually, but off the back of Solar. I think the nerves are going to be high. The pressure is going to be on. If he can take that first win, repeat his performance like he had versus Dark, take a dominant game number 1, I think he can take the series. But if he loses that, things could spiral out of control.
Yeah, the one thing that I feel like will favor Dark at the end of this all is that it is a best of 7, right? You're talking about Deer coming out the gate swinging. He gets a first game very quickly. He surprises Dark. Then he can calm down. Then he can kind of get into his gear. But if this goes the distance, I feel like Dark's, just stability in general and very important StarCraft matches are going to win him the series. Now, Deer, he's shown that he's had fantastic preparation for all of his matchups. Do you think his preparation is a bit better than Dark?
I think his preparation is definitely better than Dark's right now. Even when you look at the series with Dark and Solar, he looked a little bit shaky in terms of what builds he wanted to do. He was very much doing kind of zergling attacks on the fly based on what he saw. He was playing very reactionary. Whereas if you look back to Deer's series against Innovation specifically, that's the one I really want to hone in on. His preparation for that was so good last time they faced off against each other. His preparation going into today's matches looked solid overall. I think it was the execution where he had the problems, and the preparation against Dark last week. So these are very good signs for Deer for what he's setting up to do. The execution has to be there on the day, but I think in terms of strategy, quote unquote, as to what builds these players are bringing to the table, I think Deer will have a slight edge.
I would have to agree. So let's get to the nitty gritty of it. Let's make our predictions. Wolf, I'll let you go first. Deer versus Dark, best of 7. Who's going to take it to face Classic?
I think Dark will probably take the series 4-2. I'm a little bit hopeful for Deer, to be honest. I want to see him make an SSL Finals. I want to see him go the distance again, but based on what we saw tonight, I feel like the series, the longer it goes, might slip away from him if Dark starts to win those early games. So I have to give the advantage to Dark 4-2.
Yeah. I'm going to go along the same lines. I'll say that Dark will take it. I'll say that Dark will take it 4-1. though. I feel like Deer, if he gets behind and if Dark does get the momentum behind him that we are predicting, I think Deer will fall apart like a house of cards. We've seen him in pressure situations like this. It's not 2013 anymore. These guys have a ton of experience now, and I would just have to give Dark that more landslide-ish victory in the end of all things. So that's going to do it for this episode of After Hours. We're going to see you next Monday on September 4th at 7 p.m. We'll be there. See you then.